Hello and welcome to TrishRockTV and Energy Shift, changing energy, shifting perception. Our guest today will astound you with her connection, inspire you with her knowledge, and charm you with her beautiful qualities as a human and a soul. Anne Aleckson is a transformational speaker, author, and channel with a gift of activating your superconscious mind and unlocking your unique gifts to help you masterfully move forward on purpose towards creating change in the world. Anne works with change makers who are called to service from deep within and who also understand the importance of embodying their power, mastering their inner energetics, and being the change they want to see in the world. As a direct voice channel for highly evolved non-physical streams of consciousness, Anne provides guidance, insight, and healing through the vibrational frequency of the word. So excited to introduce you, Anne Aleckson. Thank you so much for being here, Anne.
Well, thank you, Trish, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you and your audience. I always appreciate that space. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's start with why do you think it's important that we become the change that we want to see in the world? Because I know this is a big part of your work.
Oh, absolutely. We're nothing if we're nothing in the world. We can't create change in the world unless we first make that change within.
Yeah.
As within, so without. We hear it spoken about all the time. The first thing we must do is create what we, if we, for instance, my thing is all around world peace. If I want to help play a part in creating that in the world, then I have to be totally at peace within myself. And anywhere that is unpeace, I have to deal with that through energy work or whatever it is, whatever you do. You must become what you wish to see in the world, because that's actually how, as energetic beings, that's how we create change in the world. Yes, we can go out and we can push and push and push and fight against things, but we have a greater effect when we become that and then ask others to change. We can't say to someone, you're wrong, I'm right, and you need to change. It doesn't work. I mean, we're still fighting wars because of this. Absolutely. But if we would become peaceful within ourselves and then step out in that, then that's how we create the world. It's the same with if you don't want homelessness in the world, then give space to someone in your home, or give money to organisations that do that. If you don't want hunger in the world to be a problem, then feed strangers that you see. You know what I mean? We have to be what we want to see in the world. And I like the idea of picking one thing that we really want. Like for me, it's the world peace thing.
Yeah.
It might just simply be that we don't want another child abused.
Yeah.
So where am I abusing myself? I've got to deal with that within myself. Where am I abusing myself and perhaps anyone else in my life? It's not about sexual abuse. It's just about the not honouring someone else and their sovereign self, and clean that up in my own life. And then I can demand energetically and vibrationally that the world changes with me.
Absolutely, and so many people, want that change in the external, and they say, well, I'll change when the external changes. I'll feel at peace when the world is at peace. But it's actually the opposite. And,
Yes.
Getting the word out there about that and actually being the example is really kind of leading the way for people to take that on. I was listening to an interview with Eckhart Tolle and Oprah, and he was explaining it in a really great way as well. And he was saying we need to stay at peace all the time. And Oprah kind of said, well, but what about the causes that we want to fight for? And he said, well, there it is. You're fighting for it. It's still going to be a war. You need to have peace with it and focus on the solution. And it's just a really interesting thing. We're all fighting something, aren't we? And it's not the answer.
Well, all we're really doing is fighting those things within ourselves that we don't like within ourselves. If we see it reflected outside of us, we want to fight it out there, because that's easier than admitting that, hey, maybe I've got some hatred in me that I need to clear up before I can fight. You know, it's not wrong to be an activist, but if you first do the inner activism,
absolutely,
and then it's easier to do the outside activism. You know, it's just so important that we start to embody what it is that we want the world to look like. Instead of saying, hey, world, you need to look this way.
Yeah.
We say, hey, world, I'd really like to have you look this way. So I'm going to look inside. I'm going to find what doesn't match that. And I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to clear it up, or I'm going to work with it, or whatever you need to do.
Absolutely.
And then this is how we have the ripple effect. You know, I know you're very familiar with the law of attraction, about raising our vibrational frequency. Through doing that sort of work, you raise your vibrational frequency. Yeah. And one thing that I know about someone who's in their highest vibration and has embodied the change that they want to see is that they can, just with their presence, they have an effect on everyone around them.
Absolutely.
Now, how is that not the easiest way to affect change in the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
To become what you want to see and just go out into the world as that.
And be that.
And
that does affect everyone around you, absolutely. And, you know, that's with world peace, and it's also with, you know, things like abundance and finances, things like that. And
everything.
Everything. And last time we chatted, you said to me, but Trish, you have to be that already. You know, you know, if you are that already, then, you know, what would your life look like? And you have to be that already. So, you know, where is that out of alignment within me, and reflecting on the outside and change that around. So yeah, really important. And, you know, I think that, you know, the work that you're doing is really, really life-changing, but it is also changing reality on a bigger scale, because the more people that can begin to do that inner work, then it does change the outside, because love rises, you know, love starts to rise. Yeah,
absolutely. When you do it first within yourself, and you embody it, and you become that thing that you want to see in the world, then you can't help but do things out there in the world that create that change. You know, I often talk about the time very early in my journey where I had this really very, very real experience of that. You know, when you're in your highest vibration, you can't harm another. When you're in total inner peace, you can't harm another without hurting yourself. I actually had this it wasn't a real experience, but it felt so real. This knowing that I couldn't even pinch a person without it hurting me, when I was in that beautiful space of total inner peace.
And connection.
Exactly.
Because everything's connected. So yeah, if you're pinching someone, you are also pinching yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
That profoundness of that experience has not left me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's translating that on a daily basis, because even ultimately we are human here. And you know, we are going to have to readjust, or, you know, reset our course quite often through the lifetime. But it's the awareness, isn't it? And, you know, to stay in that awareness, oh, okay, I'm not feeling total peace today. Where can I get that back on track? And it's a constant awareness.
Of course, I agree. This is really about being, for a time, being hyper aware of your own responses and reactions and behaviors. You don't need to continue being hyper aware, because once you've moved through that phase, there's less of that sort of thing happening. But it's also okay to look at it and go, well, you know what, I just feel shitty today and I'm going to wallow in it for a bit. It's okay to do that as well.
And be okay with it. Right.
give yourself permission to then get off that horse when you're ready to do so.
Absolutely, because you can't deny the emotions either. So this would be one of the things also that you help clients with, and you also help them activate their psychic gifts and their innate abilities, because we all have them. So how do you help them with that and to really open up their superconscious mind?
Well, the thing is, Trish, it's not different than what we've already been talking about, because we're talking here about embodying your own higher self, embodying your own super conscious mind. And when you do that, and then whatever you offer out into the world carries those activations in it. In other words, when you are the embodiment of the change you want to see in the world, then everyone that you serve during the time that you're in service, like I believe, you know, I mentioned to the people in my Facebook group the other day that I'm not going to call my business a business anymore. It's simply my service.
Yeah, great.
Right?
Yep.
So when you have embodied the change that you want to see in the world, and you are in service, and you go out there serving clients. And by the way, just to add, this is not about not charging for it. I want to be very clear. This is work that I do to create income.
Absolutely.
So my service creates my income. So when you embody the change you want to see in the world, when you do the work on your own self and become like a clear channel to whatever wants to come through for the person who's standing in front of you, then you're simply answering their calling. And if their calling is to be activated, to become more than their being, then that's going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. If they're
right.
ready. Is that what you're saying? If they're ready for that?
Well, it's not about whether they're ready, if their soul's ready. And let me tell you, if they're coming to work with me, if they're coming to work with you, if they're coming to work with anyone who does any of this sort of work, then their soul is leading them there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they just and then we help them get out of their way.
Own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really beautiful work. I love those moments on the clients when they really feel that connection and they get it, and you know, it's really beautiful work. And I can see, you know, you're, for so many years we've been friends, and you're just so passionate about what you do, and you know, really being out there of service to people, and you know, really being that example of peace and connection, and you know, allowing people to unravel naturally for themselves, and that's good, because you can't force it. It's you know,
no, because if you force it, coming from your energy, your energetics, your spiritual energy, you're coming from your human energy, which means that you're doing instead of being.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all get stuck sometimes on, especially when we're stepping into this calling from spirit, we all get a little bit stuck in the beginning on, you know, well, what is my purpose? What is my calling? Do I have to have a purpose? And I know for many people, they actually get really caught up and anxious about it. It's like, I don't know my purpose and I need to know. But, you know, I feel we all have a purpose, and we don't always necessarily know it from, you know, the age of 5. It could be just a purpose of curiosity to see what comes up next. But what's your greater purpose in this lifetime and your soul's calling? And when did you discover what that was?
Well, it's been an unfolding journey. That's the thing. It's not, you know, there's some lucky people who perhaps do know what their purpose is from the age of 5, but that certainly wasn't me.
Okay.
Not until my just before my 40s.
Okay.
I gave birth to my second child, 17 years after my first child.
Okay.
And I started to come into my own. I started to change. I started to shift. I started to think there must be more to life than this, because I was in a broken marriage and, you know, working for someone else, doing all of that stuff that is so normal for us. I was being a normal person and sleeping. I actually feel like I slept through most of my life, up until I was almost 40, that I was sleepwalking through life. And it is a bit like that, isn't it?
Well,
but,
it is. And if we're miserable, we also put that under the normal category. And if we're not happy, we put that under the normal category as well. And just, you know, walk through blindly thinking that's the way.
Well, it's what we've been trained to do. And actually, I do a lot of unlearning through my programs and things. I almost turn the world upside down for people, because that's what we have to do now. Absolutely. Because everything we've been taught is not true. And let me just qualify that. I'm not saying everything, but so much of what we've been taught is not true. And so I want to just say, with regards to purpose, that the problem with the way we treat purpose at the moment, you know, we go and we look for our purpose. We try to figure out what our purpose is. And we look at what everybody else's purpose is, or what everybody else is doing, and we try to figure out where do we fit within that. The only place to find your purpose is inside you. Focus on, well, what's my purpose? What am I here to do? Start putting that question out there. You'll receive the answer. Absolutely. And I did. I was taken on a journey with my guides very early on in the piece. And the words that I heard were, funnily enough, I've just written a chapter in my new book about this very thing. I heard them say to me, world peace through inner peace, one person at a time.
Love it.
And I kind of looked at that and I broke it down. So world peace is actually my soul's mission. I think that's the soul mission of every single being on this planet at the moment. And we all do it in different ways. Because all of those other things that have to be fixed before world peace will come in. We have to have no homelessness. We have to have all children looked after. We have to have no abuse of anyone, you know, those sorts of things before we can say, okay, now world peace, right?
And that all comes from peace, because even the homeless person is not feeling good about themselves, which, you know, kind of leads them to that situation. So, you know, you've there's more to it than that, obviously, but it's all about that loving ourselves, which is that peace.
Absolutely, because hurt people. We all know that. So if world peace is my soul's mission, then what am I, Anne, the physical manifestation of my soul, what am I here to do in this lifetime? And that must then mean that I'm to help people find inner peace. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm doing. I've got a job to do. I'm going to help people to find inner peace. I'm going to help them to be happy. I'm going to teach them to meditate and da-da-da-da-da. And then I thought, hang on, there's something missing. Something missing. So I sat down and I thought about it and I asked the question. And the bit that was missing was, and it starts with me. And that's when everything changed for me. That's when I started to really understand that I had to be the change that I wanted to create. So I went to work on myself first. And as I was working on myself, I was sharing what I was doing with my clients, and I was embodying inner peace, not in every moment. You know, I'm not 100% perfect. And teaching others how to do that, and just being the change that I wanted to see in the world. So again, that's why it's so important that we embody the change that we want to see. We become the change that we want to see in the world before we can ask the world to change to suit us.
Absolutely. And would you kind of start also with, you know, if somebody wants to change what's in their current reality, which is their world, they have to be that as well. So, you know,
exactly.
You start there on some things.
No, absolutely. So obviously this is something that I work with people on all the time. It's absolutely part of it. We cannot, again, we can't expect the world to be abundant for everyone unless we can make that for ourselves. You know, so it's all about first of all, acknowledging and recognizing and really starting to get it, that every single one of us is a manifestation, a physical manifestation of non-physical, or a physical manifestation of God, if you will. Yeah. So we have the power to create our reality. We all know that, we've all heard it, but so many of us know it, but we don't embody it. So again, I'm all about the embodiment of it. Absolutely. If we actually truly knew it, we would just get to creating our reality. And so,
well, we are creating it, but we're not creating the one we want. We're creating
consciously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Good. Thank you for that. I often forget to say that, we are already doing that, but becoming conscious of it and choosing to create it the way we want it instead of the way we don't want it. Absolutely. So it's really important to understand that the physical form is incredibly important. Without the physical form, the non-physical cannot do the work that it's helping you to do. Now, I'm not talking about a separate non-physical that comes in and helps and la. I'm actually talking about blending, merging your physical self with the non-physical realms, whatever that means to you. And just, if you truly believe that you were the physical manifestation of God, or the physical manifestation of the non-physical, then you'd start treating yourself a hell of a lot better, wouldn't you? Absolutely. You wouldn't go a week without paying your rent because you didn't have the money, because you would have the money. You wouldn't not eat the best food that you can for your physical body because it just wouldn't make sense to you. And that's really where we need to get to, coming back to our body.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't do our service in the world if we're not healthy, if we're not embodied and in our body.
Absolutely. And that once again comes back to inner peace and inner love. And once we start showing that compassion and that love for ourselves, that also translates then to our reality and immediate reality and world reality. So it's a big knock-on effect, isn't it? A lot of people don't really understand at first how can me loving myself help anything? It truly does. It's such a big ripple effect. It's amazing. And I think also we've been taught in society over thousands of generations that we're selfish if we think about ourselves. And so there's also that selfish element of like, no, I need to just do everything for everybody else. I'm okay. I'm okay.
So that's one of those old paradigm ways of thinking that I flip for people.
Yes.
Selfish is actually good in 5D, in the new world, in the world we're going to. Selfish is absolutely, you have to focus on yourself in order to create into your world that which you desire. Absolutely. You have to do the work on self first. And look, if I were to say the easiest, the quickest, the shortest route to evolution, to ascension, to becoming what you want to see in the world, that is unconditional self-love. Yeah. Because, we can talk about self-love, and because it's become kind of trendy, it's kind of weakened it.
It has a little bit, and self-love doesn't mean, I love myself so much today that I'm going to buy this for myself and not feel guilty. It's not about that. It's that, what I really
self-respect, really.
Today. Yeah, it's self-respect.
Respecting your physical self.
Yeah.
Enough that you do what it needs you to do in order to create more. So I mean, and I take people from 3D to 5 through 4D, which is really the realm where, and this is the way that when the guides are speaking, when they're coming through me and talking about this, I'll be doing this because I've got the 3D world here and the 5D world here. Okay. And I see a bridge between the two.
Right.
But I see a door right in the center of the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And it's a screen door. Okay. And you can't open it. You have to go through it. And if you've got any element of what we call unself-love,
Yeah.
Unself-love, not self-hatred or self-loathing, but unself-love. It's really subtle. If you've got any of those elements within you, you can't make it through the screen door. It holds you stuck.
Yeah.
Now, we call it unself-love because it is so very subtle. And let me explain how subtle it is, right? And, you know, an invitation to the audience to perhaps become hyper aware of when they're doing things like this.
Yeah.
In any moment that you are thinking that you should be doing something that you're not doing, that's an act of unself-love.
Interesting.
You see how subtle that is?
How many times during the day do we do that, right?
But it's subtle and it's just so ingrained. We can't even imagine the impact that it has. But when you look at this image that my guides have given me when they've talked to clients about this, and you see the old world, the new world, the bridge, this doorway, you have to get through it. That's the subtleness of the work that you need to do within yourself. So in any moment that you think that something's going wrong, that's an act of unself-love.
That's unlove, yeah, absolutely.
In other words, you have to be in total acceptance of what's happening.
It is acceptance of yourself, acceptance of what's happening, and really stepping out of all of those human habits and human fears that go on in the head.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're really, at this point, they're really fears, old paradigm fears.
Absolutely.
You know, most of us don't even carry them anymore.
They're not real. They're not real anymore.
But
They've never been real, you know.
But most of us energetically don't even hold that within our bodies anymore. But because we're so habituated to them, we think they're still there.
Yeah.
You know, I can do a scan of a client and see that there's actually no fear in there.
Yeah.
But their thinking mind thinks there is. Their brain's been trained so well to think that there's something wrong with them that they keep saying, well, I've got a block, I've got a block, I've got a block. And I'm like, no, you don't. There's no blocks in there. There is no energetic block in there, because the earth, the central sun, the photon waves that are coming in, all of the stuff that's happening in the world at the moment is allowing us to be risen up, allowing us to raise our vibrational frequency without us even having to do anything. That's why I say that even people who don't know that they're awake are waking up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I said that in my reading for this week as well. It's like, you know, we are awakening, whether you're aware of it or not, it's still happening because of the energy right now is just allowing us to do that. That's our evolution. That's what's happening.
Exactly.
But if you are aware of it, you can, you know, really enhance it and make it quicker, I guess, but just really embrace it, really. If you
work with it.
Yeah.
Because most of us, when we're just coming into this, we're trying to work against it. We're trying to change the way that things look. We're trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing instead of just letting it come to us.
That's it. And did you find that when it's just popped into my head about your channeling, because I know this was happening to me in the beginning as well. You know, you try to make sense of that as well and not allow it, but it has to be just allowed. It has to be allowed and trusted.
You can't think it into being, and you can't figure it out. You just have to allow it. And that comes back to, again, another level of this self-love that we're talking about is actually trust.
Yes.
Now, it's not trust in something outside of yourself. You know, a lot of people trust the universe.
Yeah.
A lot of people trust God.
Well, they say they do.
But the trust that you have in the universe will only be equal to the trust you have in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you're one and the same. You're not separate.
Yeah.
We're all this energy soup, essentially. This bit just has a physical form to it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And when I allow myself to allow those non-physical aspects of me in to speak, to use my voice, I just become a blend of the two, the physical and the non-physical. The non-physical uses the physical form. That's why I'm created. That's why we're all created, because as a physical manifestation of God. We're here to serve humanity as that physical manifestation, through touch, through words, through looking, through, you know, all the human things, being able to walk. That's the whole point of the physical manifestation. That's why it's so important that we start looking after it.
Absolutely. And, you know, people's purpose in this regard can be, you know, massive, world-changing purpose, or it could be, you know, I guess I'm just being reminded of my mum who, you know, was really tortured with shame and guilt most of her life, but everybody she came in contact with, she loved unconditionally. And that is a purpose in itself, because everybody who came in contact with her felt loved in some way, and she didn't even kind of realize she was doing it, I don't think. But I mean, that was her purpose this lifetime. So sometimes it's just smiling at a stranger. You can change people in those small little gestures every day.
Yeah. I love that, Trish, but the way that I look at it is that it's not even, you know, I love that you've said that, you know, it could be just smiling at a stranger every day. But what I want to say is this: it's actually about opening yourself up to be the service through your non-physical, to invite that in, that service, that answer to someone else's calling. That's what I like to think, that I'm just simply answering someone else's calling. So if I'm walking down the street, it's not a conscious thought to smile at a stranger. It's a intuitive knowing that, hey, look at that beautiful person over there, and a smile, right? Because I'm just answering their calling.
Beautiful. I love that.
Come from the intuitive space. And that's where trust comes in again. You've got to trust. I mean, as you, like yourself, you know, when we're doing readings and things, I don't know about you, but I have this little voice in the back of my head that says, oh my God, that doesn't even make sense.
I can't say that to them. What are you talking about?
Exactly, right? Trusting yourself means that you just ignore that and you just let whatever's coming through come through, because you trust that you're answering the calling of the person in front of you. And
you're answering your calling of service.
Exactly. And the two come together.
And being in service. I love that explanation. Thank you. So thank you so much. If people who are listening want to learn more about your work, get in contact with you, follow you through social media, I've got all the links here. What is the best way for them to really explore your work?
The best way would be to jump onto my Facebook page. Anne Aleckson, but also my Facebook group, because I go live in my group and I do little pop-up events in my group, free pop-up events. I just recently did a 3-day Facebook Live experience where I talked about how to be the change that you want to see in the world, much the same thing. And I do business stuff, and because for me, business is service. It's all the one and the same thing. So the Facebook page, the Facebook group, which is called Be the Change to See the Change, funnily enough.
Absolutely.
And on my website, I have some free offers and things like that. So if people want to explore a bit more deeply what I do, you can go there, and, you know, there's all sorts of things on my website.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Anne. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the show, and I know it's been really valuable for everybody listening. And, you know, maybe for some people listening, they're ready now to take that next step of inner awareness, inner love, and move through that unlove stage and really, you know, take the next steps, because it truly is a magical world out there, and it's a magical place to be alive. And, you know, if we can move past those unloving, I was going to say blocks, but it's not even blocks. If we can move through those unloving little bits of ourselves, then so much magic opens up.
Yeah. That's I like to say that, you know, when we're ready to move past believing that we're not enough,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's the biggest wound that we have in this day and age.
Yeah,
So
it is.
if they're
Absolutely.
watching now, they're absolutely ready. That's the thing.
Absolutely. And yeah, if you are watching, you are enough right now.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So thank you so much, Anne. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, talking with you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Been my pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tune in again next week for another awesome, inspiring guest. Bye for now.